I mean, at the end of the day, you can blow things up at any time you want to and start over. Everything comes down to a decision. And people make this way more complicated than it has to be. Decisions cause and create your future. This life is short. If you have a thought that does not align with where you want to go and it's not going towards it, you get rid of it. You change it. If it's destroying things or if it's taking you away from your mission, you end it. Period. End it.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jack Bosch Show. We talk about all things finance, real estate, entrepreneurship, and really just where we get great guests on here to talk about what's interesting in their lives. Well, today we got a very special guest. We got Mike C-Roc here, and Mike wrote a book called Rocket Fuel, how to basically be successful, how to make it even through hard parts of your life. And I'm probably going to butcher that, but hey, well, I just want to immediately just say, hi, Mike. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Jack, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I just look, I love podcasting. I love being a guest on shows, but it's an honor, and I'm humbled that people actually want to listen to me.
Wonderful. Now, of course, I mean, you have been on 1,100 or something plus podcasts. You have this stellar reputation. You're a huge connector. You're serial entrepreneur, grown large businesses. So let's dive right into it, and let's start with your book. So what made you write a book called Rocket Fuel? Why is it called Rocket Fuel? What is it about? And what can our audience learn from it right away? What's kind of like the message of the book?
Well, the message of the book, the subtitle tells it all. It's convert setbacks, become unstoppable. And so many people in life feel like the world's against them, or something bad happens and this must not be for me, or the world is built to struggle in. And through those struggles, we become stronger. We become more powerful, more able. And so I started realizing this in my life as I was into my entrepreneurial journey and coming from the brokenness in the family side of things back in the day when I was a kid. I started to realize, became conscious of something I was in my subconscious all along, is everything that came my way in life that wasn't going what I thought should, be my way. I would take that stuff and I would stick it in my tank instead of my trunk. We have a choice, two places we can stick this stuff that happens to us. We can put it in our trunk where it weighs us down and slows us down, or we can stick it in our tank, our fuel tank, and we can convert. That gives us the opportunity to convert into rocket fuel and become unstoppable. And I was doing this subconsciously my whole life because like I said, came from a lot of brokenness. And when I hit my 40s, I was like, there's something happening here that when things happen bad to me, I always rebound and I come out so much stronger. What is this? I wanted to, analyze that. So in doing that, I started doing some self-work and self-analysis. And when I started to realize these things, I said, man, this is powerful stuff. I got to share this with people. And so I decided to write a book about some of the things in my life. And then as I figured this out, I also documented the mentorship journey that I went on and the self-assessment journey that I went on. And I wanted to put it in book form to, maybe help a few people.
Wonderful. So let's dive right into that. So you said something really cool. Like you either put it in your trunk or in your tank. So let's dig into that. So it makes the immediate sense to me, because if you put it in your trunk, or I recently read somebody said, like, we put it into our backpack. What are we carrying around in our backpack? We have sorrows, and we have worries, and we have bad experiences, and we have trauma and things. And the more we put in our trunk or in our backpack, the more it weighs us down. But you're basically saying that you intuitively did the opposite. You put it into your fuel tank and you use it as fuel to propel yourself out of that situation even stronger. And so what do you think? What do you think led to that? How come you did that and most other people, you put it into their trunk, or I like the word also backpack, like to basically to have them drag it down? What's different about you? What mindset or what belief system do you have that other people don't have that allowed you to do that?
Well, I think curiosity and being observant. As a young kid, I would be very observant of human beings around me. And I would watch the people around me, whether it was, somebody that had in my family alcoholism, drug addiction, anxiety, depression, whatever that I saw when I was younger, a lot of that stuff. I would always witness them telling a story of why they were doing that. So they were basically telling a story of the past to create their future. And for some reason, as a kid, I realized that, and it was so clear to me. And I was like, do you realize that you're telling a story of why you're doing this, and then you're living that story out? And so I thought to myself when I was younger, I'm like, well, if that's the case, then I should be able to tell a story of why I'm successful and why I'm coming out of the ashes, like rising like a phoenix. And it should work too. And it did. And so I just, as a youngster, really didn't realize the fuel tank thing, but I just realized that whatever story you're sharing, the past can be whatever you want it to be. Like, the story of coming out of a broken family and hardships and all that kind of stuff can be the reason that you're successful just as much as it could be the reason you're an alcoholic.
So in other words, the facts don't change, but the story massively can change.
What
The story is
are you
up to
telling
you
yourself?
and how you're going to write it.
Yeah. What story are you telling yourself? Because that's the future you're going to live. And I want to cause and create a future that is of my dreams versus of my anxieties.
Yeah. So you ended up seeing that. That's at what age did you think you noticed that?
I would say probably solidified it in around
Okay,
nine,
that
10 years
early.
old in that range. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, that is extraordinary because, again, at that age, most people, they're adopting what the world feeds them. Is there, how come, I'm sorry, I'm digging a little deeper here, but it's fascinating to me because I went through something in a different way at age more like 13, 14, when some of my family members were always like, they was like complaining about things. They were like, oh, they're nice people, but
Oh yeah.
complain. And they were kind of giving only, oh, this person hasn't given me anything, so why should I give them something? And it was always tit for tat, and it's always like that experience. And I was like, I came to the realization that I don't want, for me, that I don't want to live life like that. I don't want to live life waiting for the other person to, or like only giving to the degree that other people gave to me. I didn't want to be wanting to add something negative every time I give a praise because, oh my God, I could praise too much or something like that. I just want to live a positive life. I want to believe in positive. I want to look at the best thing. And that was a epiphany from there because it was a close family member. And so moving forward, I looked at everything. I was like, no, I'm choosing to look at the positive. I'm choosing to see this like, well, the person gave me the best they could give me, or the person gave me something because there's something that I don't like because they don't know me, instead of that person wants to be mean to me, or that person only wants to give me, or it doesn't matter what they think. I like that person, so I'm going to give him a nice gift because I like him. It doesn't matter what they think of me, right? And I found that to be very liberating, but it took me to puberty, where I was naturally rebelling anyway. The fact that you came to that conclusion at 8, was there any family member or any kind of influence that you remember that might have driven that?
As we're thinking about this right now, I had a family that was a certain way. And then, I had step parents and I have other people that come into my family at the time. But there's one guy in particular, my stepfather, he came into my family, married my mom, her third marriage. And he had observations of the family and everything that was involved. And he would always give me his interpretations of what was going on. So maybe he spoke some sense into me with what was going on and kind of rescued me from some of that. I think that's important to have observation from outside of a situation so that they can kind of interpret what's actually going on and get rid of the emotion part. Because a lot of the stuff that happens in families is a very emotional
Oh yeah,
environment.
and that's why, like
Charge.
in age 8, it requires a lot of maturity to figure that out already and make that distinction that they're following a pattern here, and so yeah, there might have been somebody there, but if not, then even more kudos to you for having figured it out. That is really amazing. Now let's fast forward, or let's open the gates here to the world. Somebody's 45 and still haven't figured it out. How do they go about this today when these kind of grooves are deep in their psyche and they're falling into that kind of habit again and again and again? How do you, what you're saying makes 100% sense, that you can look at that and basically you see this is my history, and then you just live it out, and you can choose to define meaning to those in different ways, and therefore have a different have a different future in front of you. Even though intellectually it makes sense, what I see a lot of people do is they try, but then they still fall back into the old habits, because at this age, let's say 45, 50, they also have built usually a family or a friendship circle around them that deepens those grooves, because they're similar to them.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you can blow things up at any time you want to and start over, and not even have to start over necessarily, because you always have your wisdom and experiences. But here's the thing: everything comes down to a decision, and people make this way more complicated than it has to be. Decisions cause and create your future. So if you made decisions in the past based on experiences that you've been through, all you got to do is make a new decision. And what I mean by that is getting really clear on what you want. This life is short. I know it seems long sometimes, but life is short. And so if this life is short, by the way, I said this the other day on another show. I was like, one of the biggest things for me that keeps me driving is that I want to race. Actually, we all want to race. Okay. Early on, prior to conception, where we were like little tadpoles. I'm not going to say that we were little tadpoles, and we won a race out of trillions of other tadpoles. Okay. And we won that race. Now, if that's the case, why would we waste the opportunity that winning that race gave us? So when you come to think of it, really what you need to do, I don't care what age you are or how stuck you are in your beliefs. All you need to do is change a decision to change a belief. And I have a formula that I always use that makes so much sense, and it's comes to quantum physics and neuroscience. When you make a decision and you're clear on it, you set an intention. And intention gives your attention direction. Now, Jack, we only have so many attention units to spend on things. And as we're sitting here right now, there's probably trillions of things that we could be paying attention to, but we just don't have the ability to pay attention to all of them. So we have so many attention units we're paying attention to certain things. And then our attention needs direction. Your intention gives your attention direction. Now, if you don't direct your attention, somebody else will get it. There's a lot of distractions in the world, especially coming out of an election cycle that we just came out of, whether it's the media, music, entertainment programming, whatever. Our attention will be directed by something. It's up to us to take our intention and use that to direct our attention. Now, when you take your attention and it's focused now and directed, it'll start paying attention to the things that will validate your intention or / decision. And when that happens, you start to cause and create things in your world and have your own little world that you're living in inside this big universe that we're living in. You can create your own little universe. So intention gives your attention direction, and that intention is stemmed from a clear vision. And then you start validating that intention through your paying attention. And then you start causing and creating all these things around you. And it's important to recognize that you're the one being able to do this. It's not just happenstance. It's not luck. And it happens with good and bad. The bad stuff that's happening is because your attention is paying attention to the wrong things.
So intention creates attention.
Directs intention.
Directs attention. And then attention makes you see the things that you're focusing on anyway. I mean, one of the biggest and well-known but most overlooked facts is that you see what you focus on. Like, I mean, there's this, many people talk about the reticular activation system, something like the red Toyota, that you want to buy the red Toyota, all of a sudden you see them everywhere because we're getting billions of data points into us every single day. We can't see it all. We only see what we focus on. We only see what we tell our brain to pay attention to. That's, I think if anyone listening to this and hasn't heard that before, then make sure you listen to some more motivational or some more like life coaching kind of sessions, because that's something that's being said everywhere and it's well established. And I mean, it makes sense. Just simply think about a certain item that you want, a certain car that you want, and you'll start seeing it everywhere because your brain is starting out of all the noise. It starts picking up the things that you just told your brain is important. So if you now, the very first thing is, how do you know what's important? Well, you never thought about it, right? So the first thing, that's why the first thing is like intention. So what is an intention that somebody could set that's like stuck in a mid-level job, is like sick and tired of life, living this kind of like comfortable misery, as I like to call it, is not happy with life, is not happy with, they're definitely not filling their full potential. They're definitely not going places in life right now. They're just kind of going through the motion, making ends meet and living a life that doesn't suck. But that's kind of their point. That's the most that they can say about their life. What would you?
I'll share a story with you because this relates to this. I was in the mortgage real estate space for 20 years. I built a large organization. I had hundreds of employees over the 20 years. We were doing 8 figures. I have a nice house, beautiful, healthy wife and kids, married 21 years, living on the water. Okay. And I would come home not feeling right and miserable sometimes and misaligned, and something just wasn't right. And I just came to this thought, like, this is what life is. This is it. And I wasn't okay with that. But I felt trapped because of the money situation or the security. It might not have been a lot of money for some people. Some people, it might be just the security of a job. And so for me, it came to that security was trapping me from fulfilling my true potential and getting in alignment with really what I was here for. And so I came to a point where I hit my 40s, and instead of a midlife crisis of chasing, strange women and sports cars, I wanted to change something to basically fulfill what I was put here on this planet for. And first I had to find what that was, right? But that money situation traps you a lot of times. And for me, I said, you know what? I got to take a risk. I got to be able to take a risk and understand that what's the worst thing that can happen? I can always go back to what I've been doing. I've done it. I know I can do it. I can always go back. I got to take a chance here. And so I basically created a strategy to do something else in my life. And that thing came down to, I'm a firm believer in Jesus, and I pray a lot. And when I pray, the answer comes to me. And the answer came to me: get known. Get known. And so the intention started with, at first, before getting known, was I have to figure out another way to fulfill a purpose. I'm going to find this. That's the intention. Then I started paying attention to things, started praying. The answer came to me: get known. That's what the answer came to: get known globally. Now, I had been on magazines regionally and on the news, and I knew how to do, get manufactured a celebrity regionally. But the thing came to me: you got to go bigger. You got to get known globally. Now, this wasn't for ego. This is so that I could create what I call an attraction model. And creating an attraction model versus a chase model that I've been in my whole life, whether it was chasing parties and girls when I was in teens, and then money and job and employees later, revenue. I wanted to create an attraction model where things came to me. People, opportunities started coming to me. That way I could decide yes or no. And so with that commitment, okay, intention, get known globally. Okay, well, I have no idea how to do that. Now, most people stop there because they don't know the how. I knew the formula because I've been mentored very well by some of the greatest people on the planet. They always told me, dude, commit first, the how comes second. Trust in it and have faith. So I committed. Get known globally. All right, I'm going to do this. All right, I don't know how, but I'm going to commit. Then my attention started to paying attention to things, Jack. I started seeing podcasts everywhere of friends of mine that I knew that had podcasts. And I had no idea that they had podcasts. And I knew that I'd been on a show, and I realized, like, this is the way to get known if you just lean into this platform, this modality. And so I saw podcasts everywhere that I could have access to. But they were right in front of me before. I never saw them. My intention wasn't directing my attention at the time. Once my attention was directed by my intention on podcasting, I saw them everywhere. That allowed me to go on podcasts 7 to 10 a week for 5 years and do over 1,100 as a guest. Who would have ever thought back then that 1,100, I would have never thought that I'd been on 1,100 podcasts, and what that's done for me. Podcasting changed my life, and anybody that has a business, a brand, they should be doing 3 to 5 podcasts a month and make it a part of their life and business. This is what happened to me. And it caused and created a whole new world for me to start businesses, have opportunities, network, help other people. It's been amazing. So for me, I think that people just need to really get clear on what they want out of life, and then set an intention, and then watch the how appear.
I think you said something very important in that story. First of all, it's a great example, but then like, even if somebody's listening to that and is like, I don't have a clue, but you have an idea of what you want in your life. If you want a certain life, then commit to that. Commit to, like, set the intention of, I want X. I want to make $1 million a year. I want to make $200,000 a year. I want to live on the beach. I want to have a life where I can work from home. I want to have a life where I can work only part-time, but I have a full-time income. Now, it sounds ridiculous. Like, I want a happy family around me. Well, if you're constantly fighting with your wife and things like that, then it's probably not the reality right now. But still, set that intention. The next thing afterwards, you're going to start noticing things that help you move in that direction. That's what you basically said.
100%.
Right?
100%.
You're going to start noticing things. You're going to start noticing a book somewhere. You're going to start noticing a podcast. You're going to start noticing a reel that shows that it gives you a little kind of thing. It's like in the relationship world. I like one time where we had a phase when Michelle and I, when we were fighting earlier on, like in early life, we're both from different cultures. So we fought daily at the beginning, then we fought weekly, then we fought monthly, and now we fight like once a year, something like that. But the point is, we part of that is that basically, if you have like one thing that I read, like if you have a crisis in your relationship, then basically treat the other party for 90 days exactly the way as you would have treated him or her at the beginning of your relationship. Just be like the best possible partner to that person for 90 days. If after that 90 days that other person hasn't turned around and is nicer and is fallen back in love with you, then yeah, then it's probably not the right kind of relationship and you should be going your separate ways. But you know what? Every time that we have hit kind of like crisis, I remember this. And I was like, for like 30 days, so like the beginning, they're like, what's wrong? What do you want? Right? What do you want? So I think that's just suspicious because all of a sudden I become all nice and I try to be nice all the time, but we forget sometimes. We're busy, right? We're in life. We're not without fault here, right? So soon enough though, they're like getting used to that and it's like, oh man, and the relationship starts improving. So there's the thing is, but the intention comes first. I would have never come across that without setting that intention. So I love that what you just shared because it really it works for everything. Whatever situation you are, you set an intention of how you would like to be, and then just watch how stuff. Then pay attention because stuff is going to pop up all around you that gives you hints. Now that the thing is, at that point though, there's something missing. At that point, you got to take action on those hints, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, there's 4 areas you got to focus on. Once this starts to take place, it's thoughts, words, actions, and the people you keep in your environment. So once you establish an intention, this helps keep chaos and confusion out because you cannot be successful with chaos and confusion. It's impossible. So in order to keep chaos and confusion out, once you set your intention and your attention's directed, you're going to start paying attention now to what your thoughts are. If you have a thought that does not align with where you want to go, and it's not going towards it, you get rid of it. You change it. If it's destroying things or if it's taking you away from your mission, you end it, period. Psst, end it and change it to a thought that goes towards it. Your words, how are you speaking? You're paying attention to how am I speaking? Am I cursing too much? Am I complaining a lot? Am I negative when I talk? Am I doing a lot of, what do they call it? Negative self-talk. You start paying attention to that. Okay, now I'm realizing this. I'm assessing this. Change it. Now, what am I doing every day? My habits or lack of habits, are they going towards the mission and intention or away from it? Are they building where I'm trying to build to or destroying it? And now okay, you can assess these things and make changes. And then finally, your environment. This is one of the most empowering things ever is to be able to exit relationships, confront people in your life, in your environment that aren't going towards your mission or your dreams. Because otherwise the people that are around you will actually steal from you. They'll actually steal your dreams from you if you allow it. And most people aren't willing to cut off close relationships with friends or family or leave a job when they need to, when it's so clear that they need to, that it's holding them back. And if you have to be willing to do that. Now, let's say you have a close friend or a family member, or even a spouse, and you want to achieve something and it's set inside of you. You just know you're here for this. And you start going towards it or pursuing it or talking about it. And you have, let's say your spouse is negative towards it. They're discouraging you. That is an episode that you do not want to live out by not confronting that and having a respectful conversation saying, this really means a lot to me. I hope you would understand that, but this is something I just feel inside that I need to accomplish or go after. And I would request respectfully your support. And if you can't confront that and have that conversation, it's going to build up fights, conflict, and you're not going to go to your dreams because it's going to be like you're trying to take off with a plane, but there's a car tethered to the back of the plane. So thoughts, words, actions, and environment. Those 4 areas lead you to know, okay, assess towards or away, building or destroying. And as long as you are able to confront when it's not going in the direction you want it to go as quickly as possible, as long as you do that, you're going to be suppressed.
And that is a key part about that because a lot of people out there are, and I'm including myself, I had to work on that for a long time, are very conflict averse. So in the and that comes again from the family. If you look at it, like my dad grew up very, very conflict averse with a very authoritarian dad, and a couple and several very traumatic things in his life, where his mom passed away as a teenager, and his dad already passed away before he was born. So then he grew up in an environment where he very, very, very much appreciated harmony and peace. So to the degree that he would, and he's still with us, it's like that to the degree that he avoids any kind of confrontation to this point, and rather gets actually mad, but not about the confrontation, but about the fact that you're bringing up an issue. And well, I learned from my dad, right? So as I grew up, I'm very much against confrontation, but then I married a Latina. And if I married a Latina, their confrontation style is, let's explode, let's get it out of the air immediately, let's resolve it so that we don't kind of have like carrying stuff with us. That's the Latin way. Like you're like,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so that my way of operating didn't work anymore. So I had to confront my own conflict averseness to not be buried there in order for that to work, because otherwise it just wouldn't work. And so bringing it back to what you said, a lot of people, if somebody's conflict averse, you got to be aware of those kind of tendencies, and you got to work on those, because I guarantee you something. If you're 45 years old or older, or 35 years old, like if you're a grown person, my point, and you have lived in an environment that supports you being the way you are today, and you're not happy with how you are today and who you are today, then there will be conflicts as you change into becoming a different person. If you start having different thoughts, having a different outlook, having a different words, you're using different words, you're going to be starting to not fit in with a lot of the people that you hang out with today anymore. And they're going to go, they might not have a problem confronting you with that. But if you do, you're going to shrink back. And you can't do that. So you gotta look at you. Are you conflict averse? Are you not conflict averse? Do you care what people say? Do you not care what people say? And work on that to be able to actually do the confrontation. So if you're grown up, you cannot understand that if you're not grown up in that way. I do understand it very closely, because it took me 20 years in my adulthood until I finally confronted that. And even to this day, the thing I hate most is let somebody go in my office. I absolutely despise it, because it's even though that person knows it, that it's a better way for them to leave, and I know it, that it's better for that person to leave, the actual session gives me nightmares from a point of view of like the confrontation. So I'm still hating it to this day. I don't want to face these confrontations, but I've gotten way better.
But Jack, here's the thing. You know how to avoid those nightmares?
Tell me.
Well, you get rid of time. So if you get rid of time by confronting faster than slower,
yeah, that's exactly the answer.
The nightmares. So do you
that in itself is counteracting the conflict averseness, because definition of conflict averse is to not confront it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So you have to ask yourself the question: do I like the nightmares better, or do I like the confront better, or what do I least like? Right? Do I hate the conflict more than the nightmares? Which one do I hate more? Because you're going to have to deal with one of them. And
exactly. And that's really good advice. And the other advice is that every single time, ultimately, I had to confront somebody or had to confront the situation, it wasn't as bad as it looked like. And afterwards, I wish I would have done it much earlier.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think the same is going to be true for anyone listening. So you're making up all these scenarios in your head that actually not even happening. So train yourself to address stuff, and that's my solution. Like now, when I don't like something, I bring it up right away, because now it's a small thing versus a big thing. And because if you let it go 25 times, now it's a big thing in your mind. But if you address it right away, then you have a tiny little thing. It's not even a conflict. It's just a little adjustment that you make, and you don't even come into a situation. But again, if you have built a life where everyone is a certain way and you're trying to change out of that way, you better be prepared for some major confrontations, But let me tell you, is it worth it? 100%.
Yeah, you being conflict averse, it doesn't make conflicts go away. So you're gonna have to confront things eventually anyway. You're forced to at some point, right? You might as well do it before you're forced to, because the more you wait till you're forced to, the pressure builds up. And when the pressure builds up, eventually you think about a tire or a balloon, eventually it's going to pop. Do you want to get to that point and deal with the confrontation or the conflict, or do you want to deal with it when there's no pressure? And that's the choice we all have. So you're going to have to do it anyway. Why would you wait?
And another thing is actually happening when you go through these phases. Like when I came to the US, when we started our business, when everything, all my established network of people, they were like looking at me like weird, like, because none of my family members have a background in running your own business and so on. So if you have that, breaking out of that, starting your own business is all something that people where you're going to have these kind of like rubbing against each other moments, or this conflict moments, even though it's not necessarily conflict. It's people more like they want to make sure you do the right thing. And wasn't what you're doing so far nice and safe, right? Isn't that what they want to keep you safe, but safety is what's killing you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So when you do that, these things come up again and then. And what's something nice and surprising though is sometimes the people you least expect are actually jumping on board with you and are going on the journey with you, and they're willing to change. And the people you expect to be most supportive often are not. You find that to be true?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. A lot of people are looking for people that are the type that are willing to grab the bull by the horns and be confronting and have a vision, and they're willing to be risky and step out. People are looking to jump behind those people or jump on those people's bandwagon. And so you can choose to be that person or be the person that wants to hop on someone else's. And of course, some of the people closest to you will be the least encouraging people. I mentioned praying earlier. Jesus in the Bible, he had to leave his home town or city or village because the people in his village just knew him as a kid, Jesus. They didn't know him as the Messiah. When he went to these other places and did these things, so you definitely, and that's another little lesson here, is you got to get out and extrovert and be around different organizations, different networks. It's a weird thing how people closest to you don't see the greatest things in you as those that don't know you.
Yeah, there's a saying in German. I'm originally from Germany, obviously. There's a saying in German that says nobody is a prophet in his own country, in his own homeland. For that's exact same reason, because they're like, what are you talking about being a prophet? You're little Jack, right? I know you since you like wearing diapers and things like that. They don't take you seriously. So, but you said something good. Support organizations. I cannot stress that enough. That one way that you can also break out slowly, because most people, to be true, that most people just simply won't go and say, you know what, they get up one morning, they go like, I'm going down to the Starbucks in the corner, and they just never come back, right? That's not anyone's reality. Like very few people do that. Very few people burn the bridges. Very few people are like, this is it, I'm quitting, I'm becoming this, and leave me alone, and they stick it through. Most people want to make those changes little by little. And unfortunately, that's the most dangerous, the kind of the path that probably fails the most, because you're for the longest time surrounded by all these influences that drag you back. But one thing you can do to improve your chances and really make things is join all the different supporting organizations. Like I saw it in our coaching program the other day. One of our coaching students, he was on track to get the Hall of Fame. He finished his coaching program. He had multiple $100,000s. He left our support network and he went off on his own. And the other day he texted me, "Oh, I had to stop doing land flipping because I couldn't I couldn't get deals anymore and things like that." Yet our coaching students are doing record profits right now. What really happened here is my question. What really happened here? Is he not able to do deals anymore, even though our coaching students are doing the massive amounts of deal? Or did he get sucked into a negative mindset surrounding again? And as a result, he's kind of like blaming the world for it. And as a result, he's doing less and less and less. And now he even quit entirely and got a part-time job, which is completely ridiculous because the guy knows everything to make this into $1 million business.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You need the surroundings to encourage you when things happen bad. Look, in entrepreneurship, when things happen bad, you feel so alone. It's a very dark, isolating time. And so definitely having others around you that are going through the same thing to pick you up. Nobody, it seems like when you're in a group, not everybody's going through the bad times at the same time.
Right.
But when you're by yourself, you're going through the bad thing at the same time with yourself. And it feels lonely. So of course, and then you start telling yourself, here's the thing, when something bad happens, you make up an excuse of why it happened so that you can live with yourself. So you make up all these BS excuses and then you believe them because otherwise you wouldn't be able to live with yourself. You just wouldn't be able to handle it. And so you need somebody to call you out on your BS or just maybe give you a second set of eyes on some things. Yeah, community is important, man. Definitely.
Yeah. It's really crucial because it gives you that if you have some negative influences in your life, it gives you that constant outside drip of positivism of examples of people that are doing it, and it keeps you going because, as they say, motivation is like deodorant; you need it daily.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So how do you help people these days? So what do you do? So like this is really good stuff. I love this. And so how do you beyond writing a book, how do you help people? What do you do? What's like? How do you make a living these days? You got out of the finance business, and you're fulfilling your live stream right now. But how does it look like in day to day?
Yeah. So I have a company called That One. It's a brand we started that we help people get booked on top podcasts. And we basically are under the belief that everybody that's an entrepreneur, that's in real estate, like if you're out there trying to help people, you should have a podcast a strategy, like getting on shows as a guest at least once a week, introducing yourself. It's the best networking tool out there. It's the best way to leverage other people's audiences. It's the best way to produce content, most efficient and effective way to build your brand. And so we help people get on podcasts and then leverage that appearance on those shows. And then also I help other men. We created a group called the New Man's Order. And it's a group of men that want to come together to get the most out of their life and most out of what God's been, given them. And so anybody that's interested in any of that, whether it's That One agency with podcasts, or if you want to be more information on New Man's Order, you can DM me on Instagram at Mikey C-Roc, MikeyCroc. I answer my DMs all the time. And so just shoot me a DM.
All right, Mike C-Roc. We will obviously put all the links and everything into the show notes, but that's the easiest way to do it. And guess what? That's how we got to meet each other. So they reached out to us. We were looking for really good podcast interviewees, and looked at his bio and things like that. And we operate in similar circles. We have lots of mutual friends. So after a little bit checking and back and forth, we're like, okay, you know what? That could be a really good podcast. Because I love what you've built. I love where you're coming from. I love what you're building here, why you're building it, and I really enjoyed our conversation right now. So
thank you, John.
With that said, one last question for you, and that is, so in going into 2025 right now, and the New Year's resolutions and all this kind of stuff like that, what is like some hands-on advice that you can give somebody that wants to go wherever they want to go? So they want to change their life. What's like, you shared a lot of it, but like one little final word of, particularly for the time that we are in right now, this podcast probably going to be released somewhere just before Christmas. So any words of advice for that time of the year of what you can use, how you can use the time, or whatever you want to say?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. At the New Year, it's a good tool to use, the New Year's resolution, but I don't even care about the New Year. Like I operate all the time, setting out an intention, getting very clear on what I want, writing it down, using my imagination. It's so important. Use your imagination. We've been told not to use our imagination. Use your imagination. Feel the feeling that it'll feel to feel that accomplishment, whatever it might be. Write it down, set the intention, and then start paying attention around you. Watch what happens. Prove me wrong with this. This is a natural law. You can't go wrong with it. So just get clear on what you want and then go after it, man. There's no time limit on it. There's no set time that you need to do it, whether it's the new year or what have you. This happens anytime. And now's the best time.
Wonderful. Well, with that said, That's a beautiful ending. With that said, thank you very much, Mike. I'm glad you were on here. Happy to have you here. So with that said, guys, this is a wrap. As always, give us that 5-star review, share it with your friends, and I see you in the next podcast episode. Bye-bye.